This is Brian with Redefined-Life. Tonight I want to talk about sin, and one sin in particular here. And it's a sin that you'll hear preached from the pulpit a little bit from pastors, but how in depth can you really go for a 30-minute sermon or, an hour sermon? And I've been in men accountability groups that it seems like men will talk about a lot of other issues, but this is one that we don't talk about. This sin also applies to women, and I'm going to show some numbers in an article that might open people's eyes a little bit. And having dealt with this particular sin and the damaging effects and how much it can destroy a person's life, I hope to give a little bit of insight from a personal perspective. So, the sin that we're talking about is pornography. And this article here is from FaithWire. It says a majority of Christians confess to using porn, and many are comfortable with it, study finds. Scroll on down here. Now, this article is by Miss Trey Phillips. He's the editor of it. Give him credit for that. And this was in October 22nd of 2024. So it says here that a new survey has revealed a majority of self-identified practicing Christians admit to viewing pornography, and a sizable percentage confessed they are comfortable with the harmful habit. Recently released study, Beyond the Porn Phenomenon, conducted by the Barna Group in partnership with the Pure Desire Ministries, found pornography use is a prevalent among all demographics, and the gap between Christians and non-Christians is shrinking significantly. One problem of this sin is we can hide it. And it affects men and women, but for men, we don't really want to admit that something can control us, something can consume us. And that's one of the dangers of this particular sin. This goes on here and says around 54% of Christians and 68% of non Christians reported viewing pornography. And among Christians, 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women use pornography to some degree. 75% is 3 out of 4 people. And now just look around your congregation, people that you go to church with, other Christians, and just think 3 out of 4 of these men or women are dealing with this particular issue. So this goes on here and says researchers stated, despite the church's stance against lust generally, it seems little progress has been made to deter many of those who fill the pews from pornography consumption specifically. The gap between professed beliefs and actual behavior raises questions about the efficacy of current approaches within the faith communities. I want to question a little bit about the approaches. I don't think a lot of churches have any type of support system for men that are dealing with this. Part of it is because if you're even in a accountability group or a person, maybe an accountability partner, you have to develop some type of a trust with this person. You don't want to be spilling, your sin to somebody to have them run to somebody else and say, hey man, that the Bob over here, he's dealing with this. So, you need to build up a sense of trust, but I don't really see a lot of things within the church that a Christian could go to and, try to get help from this. As we go on down here further, let's go down here. It says, Pure Desire Ministries Executive Director Nick Stumbo said that the data in the study represents a sobering call to realize our collective struggle has not improved, despite the steps some congregations have taken to quell the pornography epidemic. Again, I don't know how many congregations have really taken steps to help people like this. And the other side of it is how many Christian men or women that's in the congregation would feel comfortable with the people within the church to even have, type of a support from them. It says the average Christian is not experiencing freedom in this area. 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women report that they are viewing pornography at least occasionally, he said. And what may be more troubling is that well over half of the Christians who use porn say they are comfortable with their porn use. That is a dangerous statement that we need to watch out for. When we get comfortable with porn, we're setting ourselves up for failure big time. Goes on here and says, the reality for those struggling in the church is that they too often feel like they are alone. He says, when asked, who is helping you with your struggle with pornography? A staggering 82% of Christians say no one. Isolation is the enemy's playground. That's one of the things, you know, pornography can be done in your house where there's nobody around. Nobody's going to know that you're doing it. And it's a cycle. And the cycle just feeds upon itself. Pornography, once the talons get in you, it's really hard to get them out. It's really seductive. It sucks you into it. A lot of times it's just a little incremental step, and then the next thing you know, you're out way in left field, and it just becomes so hard in order to, break that. Sometimes, if we don't have help within the church, we don't really have anybody to go to. The only other alternative would be to go seek professional help. And in my life, I just have seen the devastating effects of it. I have witnessed within my own self and experienced how it numbed my senses. It just consumed me. It controlled my thoughts. It gave me a warped sense of reality. And I seen the damaging effects that, it did in my life. Goes on here that this however you say that name, Sam, an author who specializes in helping men overcome pornography addictions, told CBN News in 2022 that a significant contributor to churches failing to provide resources to those struggling with the habit is the fact that many ministers are themselves struggling with addiction. This is a sin that it doesn't matter who you are, men, women, it don't matter if you're a judge, if you're a pastor, if you're a bum on the street, it doesn't matter who you are, that this can just consume you. And again, it's hard to break that. And if you don't have somebody to talk to, what do you do? It goes on down here and it says, we know that pastors and leaders are shepherds. They're shepherds of the flock that God has entrusted them with. He said their responsibility is to guide their sheep through the different pastures of life, and somewhere in those pastures, there's a big area called sexual integrity. And a lot of shepherds are not able to lead their sheep there because they do not have access to it. I think the number that it states about how many pastors and leaders that this has affected ought to be, in a weird way, and I want to take it for a positive, reassuring for other Christians that, this isn't just you that's dealing with it. That there's a large number of people that are dealing with it. And, even pastors and leaders deal with it. So this isn't a problem that really should be behind the closed door, shouldn't be talked about, but it should be something that is addressed and at least have a comfortable, safe spot to talk about some of this stuff. It goes on here. It says, Sam continued, if leaders don't get their own lives cleaned up, they will fear bringing in the resources and the people that can actually help their congregation out of fear of being a hypocrite, being found out, and losing their job. That's another part of stuff too. It's an embarrassing thing. Here you are trying to preach God's word and live on Christian standards, and yet you've got this addiction that's, overcoming your life. Perhaps because of the ambiguity of pornography, some 62% of the Barna survey respondents express some level of comfortability with their use of the explicit material, and 49% of practicing Christians say that they are comfortable with their use of pornography. That's compared to 73% of non Christians. Across the board, 16% have admitted having some reservations about it, but said that they found moderate use acceptable. Only 14% expressed a desire to eliminate pornography from their lives. Now, let me tell you, it's very important that we strive very, very diligently to get this out of our lives. It will consume us, and if it's left unchecked, it will destroy our lives from personal experience. Goes on here, the staggering low percentage is likely due to the fact that the majority of Americans believe the use of pornography to spark arousal is not detrimental to a healthy sex life. That's a misconception right there. When we view pornography, whether it's men or women, we view what we are seeing as the real world. We will start to have desires for things that are not reality. Then you look at your spouse and you wonder, wow, I want what I see on the TV or magazines or wherever they're getting it from. But it will, taint the way that you look at life, your people that are around you. More than half of Christians, 55%, agree a person can regularly engage with pornography and still have a healthy sex life. And nearly half of believers, 48%, even said they believe watching pornography can improve a user's sex life. You know, this is just, ways of, you know, minimizing the effects. We're justifying the use of what we're doing. One of the excuses that I used was, I'm not out there sleeping around with a lot of women, and so I can just go home and look at porn. And wow, I'm not out there sleeping around getting some disease or having a girl get pregnant. So this is good. But see, I'm justifying the use of pornography. I minimized it, saying, well, it's really not that bad. And when we start doing these things, it'll just continue and continue and continue. Goes on here, echoing Sam's recommendation for the churches to increase engagement on this matter. The Barna research urged ministry leaders to provide resources to fight the candidly discussed pornography use. Ultimately, the church is meant to be a source of hope for people facing all sorts of challenges in life, including struggling with pornography, said the researchers. By addressing the issue head on with care, understanding, and practical support, churches can fulfill their role as places of healing and restoration. Even small steps toward openness and support can make a significant impact in the lives of those who are struggling. Coming from a person that has struggled with this and personally has experienced the destructiveness of this and has made every excuse in the book in order to continue until I was able to get a handle on it, one suggestion to church leaders, it could be ministries, is one thing that you're going to want to have is a safe spot for somebody to be able to go and trust the person. If it's an accountability partner or a church leader, you're going to have to build a trust up that they're going to be able to open up to you. If you can't open up and trust the person that you're with, you might as well not even do it. Another thing to be aware of is if you're going to have somebody that has to be an accountability partner, you're going to want to have that person be strong in their faith and grounded and not be dealing with that same issue. If they're dealing with the same issue and you put them with somebody that's trying to recover or get themselves out of this addiction, you might as well not even do it. It can just lead them and cause them to fall into sin. Another thing to keep in mind too, it's not just a decision that a person can make. It's like being an alcoholic. You have a chemical dependency, and pornography produces that same dependency in the person. When they view pornography, it creates endorphins, it makes you feel good, and your body craves that. So if a person's, say, trying to stop viewing it, there is a physiological side of things that your body can go through withdrawals on it, especially for somebody that is a fairly heavy user of pornography. There's a lot we could talk about with this. My plea to Christian men and women is if you're dealing with pornography, talk to the Lord and try to make a stance that you're going to, repent of that and try to overcome this. And it's going to be a very difficult road for people out there that's in the ministries or church leaders. If it's something that you want to get involved in, be aware of the full aspect of what it is. It's part physiological. It's a mental side of things. There's a lot of things that can go on, and be involved in this. So, we need to be aware as if we're going to try to help somebody, the in and outs of what it really is. And this society really frustrates me because, you know, if you're trying to recover or abstain from the use of pornography, man, you can't go to Walmart, you can't watch anything on TV. It becomes a real struggle. And a person has to know their boundaries and be able to have, if you need to call somebody and say, hey, man, I'm really having a hard time with this. But, society isn't a very good help either. It can really fuel, the desire to, keep using pornography. It's really staggering the numbers of how many, Christian men and women this affects. My last advice to anybody that's dealing with this is you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Cut through all of the crap, get down to who you are as a core, quit making excuses, quit justifying things, quit minimizing it, and get down to where you're on your hands and knees with the Lord and say, Lord, help me. But you're not going to ever recover from this is if you cannot be brutally honest and quit making excuses. I don't know how else to say that, but just the way that it is, because we will sugarcoat things. People will tell us it's not that bad, but it is from personal experience. Thanks for hanging on to the end. If you haven't liked the video, subscribe. Please do that. The same old spiel. Hit the notification button. And this is just it's a very troubling statistics, and it's a very hard thing to get over. But all Christians, whether you deal with this or not, need to pray for other Christians that are dealing with this. There's power in prayer, and hopefully, the more people that are aware of these numbers might throw this on their prayer list, and maybe the power of God will be seen in these people's lives. Thanks again for watching.